Strangers by Dean Koontz. Part 1. A Time of Trouble. Starts with 2 quotes. A faithful friend is a strong defense. A faithful friend is the medicine of life. Apocrypha. And then, a terrible darkness has fallen upon us, but we must not surrender to it. We shall lift lamps of courage and find our way through to the morning. That's a quote from an anonymous member of the French Resistance in 1943. Part 1, November 7th to December 2nd. Chapter 1 of Part 1, Laguna Beach, California. Dominic Corvasis went to sleep under a light wool blanket and a crisp white sheet, sprawled alone in his bed, but he woke elsewhere, in the darkness at the back of the large foyer closet, behind concealing coats and jackets. He was curled in the fetal position. His hands were squeezed into tight fists. The muscles in his neck and arms ached from the tension of a bad, though unremembered dream. He could not recall leaving the comfort of his mattress during the night, but he was not surprised to find that he had traveled in the dark hours. It had happened on 2 other occasions, and recently. Somnambulism, a potentially dangerous practice commonly referred to as sleepwalking, has fascinated people throughout history. It fascinated Dom, too, from the moment he became a baffled victim of it. He had found references to sleepwalkers in writings that dated as far back as 1000 BC. The ancient Persians believed that the wandering body of a sleepwalker was seeking his spirit, which had detached itself and drifted away during the night. Europeans of the grim and medieval period favored demonic possession or lycanthropy as an explanation. Dom Corvasis did not worry about his affliction, though he was discomfited and somewhat embarrassed by it. As a novelist, he was intrigued by these new nocturnal ramblings, for he viewed all new experiences material for his fiction. Nevertheless, though he might eventually profit from creative use of his own somnambulism, it was an affliction. He crawled out of the closet, wincing as the pain in his neck spread up across his scalp and down into his shoulders. He had difficulty getting to his feet because his legs were cramped. As always, he felt sheepish. He now knew that somnambulism was a condition to which adults were vulnerable, but he still considered it a childish problem, like bedwetting. Hey. Wearing blue pajama bottoms, bare-chested, slipperless, he shuffled across the living room, down the short hall into the master bedroom, and into the bath. In the mirror, he looked dissipated, a libertine surfacing from a week of shameless indulgence in a wide variety of sins. In fact, he was a man of remarkably few vices. He did not smoke, overeat, or take drugs. He drank little. He liked women, but he was not promiscuous. He believed in commitment in a relationship. Indeed, he had not slept with anyone in, what was it now, almost 4 months. He only looked this bad, dissipated, wrung out, when he woke and discovered that he had taken one of his unscheduled nocturnal trips to a makeshift bed. Each time he had been exhausted. Though asleep, he got no rest on the nights he walked. He sat down on the edge of the bathtub, bent his leg up to look at the bottom of his left foot, then checked the bottom of his right foot. Neither was cut, scratched, or particularly dirty, so he had not left the house while sleepwalking. He had awakened in closets twice before, once last week and once 12 days prior to that, and he had not had dirty feet on those occasions either. As before, he felt as if he had traveled miles while unconscious, but if he actually had gone that far, he had done it by making countless circles of his own small house. A long hot shower soaked away a lot of his muscle discomfort. He was lean and fit, 35 years old, with recuperative powers commensurate with his age. By the time he finished breakfast, he felt almost human. After lingering with a cup of coffee on the patio, studying the pleasant geography of Laguna Beach, which shelved down the hills toward the sea, he went to his study Sure that his work was the cause of his sleepwalking, not the work itself so much as the amazing success of his first novel, Twilight in Babylon, which he had finished last February. His agent put Twilight up for auction, and to Dom's astonishment, a deal was made with Random House, which paid a remarkably large advance for a first novel. Within a month, movie rights were sold, providing the down payment on his house, and the Literary Guild took Twilight as a main selection. He had spent 7 laborious months of 60, 70, and 80-hour weeks in the writing of that story, not to mention a decade getting himself ready to write it. But he still felt like an overnight success, up from genteel poverty in one great leap. The once poor Dominic Corvasis occasionally caught a glimpse of the now rich Dominic Corvasis in a mirror or a sun-silvered window, saw himself unguarded, and wondered if he really deserved what had come his way. Sometimes he worried that he was heading for a great fall. With such triumph and acclaim came considerable tension. When Twilight was published next February, would it be well received and justify Random House's investment, or would it fail and humiliate him? Could he do it again, or was Twilight a fluke? Every hour of his waking day, these and other questions circled his mind with vulturine persistence, and he supposed the same damn questions still swooped through his mind while he slept. That was why he walked in his sleep. He was trying to escape those relentless concerns, seeking a secret place to rest where his worries could not find him. Now, at his desk, he switched on the IBM display writer and called up Chapter 18 on the first disc of his new book, as yet untitled. He had stopped yesterday in the middle of the 6th page of the chapter, but when he summoned the document, intending to begin where he had left off, he saw a full page where there had been half. Unfamiliar green lines of text glowed on the word processor's video display. For a moment he blinked stupidly at the neat letters of light, then shook his head in pointless denial of what lay before him. The back of his neck was suddenly cool and damp. The existence of those unremembered lines on page 6 was not what gave him the creeps, it was what the lines said. Furthermore, there should not have been a page 7 in the chapter, for he had not yet created one, but it was there. He also found an 8th page. As he scrolled through the material on the disc, his hands became clammy. The startling addition to his work in progress was only a 2-word sentence repeated hundreds of times. I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Double spacing, quadruple indentation, 4 sentences to a line, 13 lines on page 6. 27 lines on page 7, another 27 on page 8. That made 268 repetitions of the sentence. The machine had not created them by itself, for it was merely an obedient slave that did precisely what it was told, and it made no sense to speculate that someone had broken into the house during the night to tamper with his electronically stored manuscript. There were no signs of a break-in, and he could not think of anyone who would play such a prank. Clearly, he had come to the word processor while sleepwalking and had obsessively typed in the sentence 268 times, though he had absolutely no recollection of having done it. I'm scared. Scared of what? Sleepwalking? It was a disorienting experience, at least on the morning end, but it was not an ordeal that would cause such terror as this. He was frightened by the quickness of his literary ascent and by the possibility of an equally swift descent into oblivion. Yet he could not completely dismiss the nagging thought that this had nothing to do with his career, that the threat hanging over him was something else altogether, something strange, something his conscious mind did not yet see, but which his subconscious perceived and which it had tried to convey to him by means of this message left while he was sleeping. No, nonsense. That was only the novelist's overactive imagination at work. Work, that was the best medicine for him. Besides, from his research into the subject, he knew that most adult sleepwalkers made short careers of it. Few experienced more than half a dozen episodes, usually contained within a time span of 6 months or less. Chances were good that his sleep would never again be complicated by midnight ramblings, and he would never again wake huddled and tense in the back of a closet. He deleted the unwanted words from the disk and went to work on Chapter 18. When he next looked at the clock, he was surprised to see that it was past 1, and that he had labored through the lunch hour. Even for Southern California, the day was warm for early November, so he ate lunch on the patio. The palm trees rustled in a mild breeze, and the air was scented with autumn flowers. With style and grace, Laguna soaked down to the shores of the Pacific. The ocean was spangled with sunlight. Finishing his last sip of Coke, Dom suddenly tilted his head back, looked straight up into the brilliantly blue sky, and laughed. You see, no falling safe, no plummeting piano, no sword of Damocles. It was November 7.